everyone, Ashley Mailloux and Mike Beer here with the Daily Racing Form. The DRF race of the day for this Saturday is a rescheduled race. It's the Unusual Heat Turf Classic. It's race number 9 out at Santa Anita, mile and an eighth on the turf course. And as I mentioned, these are supposed to be held a week ago, but not much has changed, just post positions here, Mike, as we see all the other horses that we expected to see race not too long ago. They're back in this spot.
Yeah, a couple of switches in post position. Make of that what you will here. This field stayed intact. It's a very competitive one, Ashley. I thought cases could be made for a lot of different horses here.
Yeah, some interesting horses coming in here, such as Fast Buck, Allegato, and even the stablemate of Allegato, Old Pal, is an interesting type as well, who now has post 3. These horses were more towards the outside of the starting gate when we last talked about this race. But as we turn to the time form, U.S. pace projections here, a fast pace is expected with Fast Buck obviously being one of the speed horses in here, coming out of some 6.5 furlong races on the downhill. They tried him at a mile and a 16th last time out, and once again, he went to the front. He didn't have much left late, but other horses in here, Jimmy Blue Jeans, as well as On the Whim, who now has the inside, they like to be forward as well.
Feels like this pace could at least be competitive if it's not super fast. Listen, Fast Buck, I wouldn't hold the first route attempt against him too much last time. He was in a way tougher spot. He has a distance question to answer, however, and it does feel like the 4, Jimmy Blue Jeans, he just looks like one-way speed to me. He's got to go in here.
We'll start it off here with the number 1, On the Whim, who, as I mentioned, did try going long last time out. And they've tried this a couple of times with him. I guess when you look at the race 4 back, it worked out well at a mile and a 16th. But last time out, I felt like he went off favored. He should have had a better performance than he did, considering the fractions. I know they were a little quick, but he really backed out of it late.
It's just a little disappointing in the most recent start. We'll see if he can bounce back from it. Based on his prior turf efforts, I think it would probably benefit anybody to stay positive on him because his prior turf races they're all good. He's 4 for 4 on the grass against Calbreds, and he's back in against Calbreds here. I know it was down the hill, a different sort of kind of race 2 starts back, but I really liked that performance from him. His Cal Dreamin' was good. He's a contender in here, and he got a great post.
He did. I think this kind of benefits him. Not that he was drawn poorly last time around, but again, being towards the inside should help him. The number 2, None Above the Law. I'll say the same thing that I said last week. Really have a tough time endorsing him. He's 0 for 9 at Santa Anita on the grass, and I think they've just tried so many things with him. Look at his last 4. Long on the dirt, there's a sprint on the dirt, and then there's the same sort of thing going on the turf. And for me, the best race was in the Cal Flag when he was able to sprint.
Yeah, and he didn't run as well as On the Whim did in that race. So I don't know. Yeah, I thought he was kind of hard to make a case for too. He's another horse who's just dropping out of a race where he had absolutely no chance to win, going 1.5 miles against those horses. But you still have to judge him on his other races. And I just thought that there were other way more interesting horses in here.
At number 3, Old Pal. He's an interesting type. We'll take a look at his most recent performance, which I thought was a pretty good effort all in all. He ends up finishing 3rd here, but a horse that was dead last early on and set at the back. And he's going to have a fair bit of trouble here, Mike. And the way that he's able to try to angle out, then you see him on the inside, still looking for room. I really thought probably those last 10 strides to the wire, you see his ability, and he still punches through and ends up getting a minor piece.
Yeah, he ran well in here. Maybe ultimately just really, really unlucky in that race. I thought he also ran well 2 starts back going this distance when he just missed with a late run. Listen, I guess his running style is really problematic because he has no speed and he's going to have to pass a lot of horses in this race, but he's still lightly raced. I think he fits really well in here. 9 furlongs, no issue for him. We were talking about the redraw. The 2 Glad horses, they both did a lot better on the redraw here. They had post 10 and 11 last week. This horse moves to the 3, the other one moves to the 7.
I know we talk about post a lot and maybe how it doesn't matter or it does matter. I think for them, not a deal breaker, but the fact that they don't have early foot really to them at all, at least they'll be able to save ground. So you bring up a good point there with the 3, Old Pal. The 4, Jimmy Blue Jeans, he technically won last time out, but then was disqualified for causing interference there. He drifted late. I thought it was a good performance. It seemed like cutting back from 1.5 miles to a mile in that most recent outing helped him. I'm just not sure what his best case scenario is, because when I look at him on paper, I just feel like he's almost a need the lead type as of late.
Me too. He does. To me, he looks like one-way speed, and I feel like that pace projector we looked at before, maybe it affects him more than anybody else in this field. I think he's pretty dangerous in this race just because he does have so much speed. And if he somehow manages to clear to the lead around the first turn in here, this horse could be pretty dangerous. I don't love him in here. I'm not quite sure about the 9 furlongs either, although he has won at this distance a long time ago. I don't know. I'm worried about the distance. I'm worried about the pace scenario, but this is a dangerous horse.
Take a look at the number 5 We Can here for Brian Coroner, a horse that was second last time out behind one of his rivals. Once again, takes 3, but that was on the dirt at Los Al. And you go through his turf form. He's a 3-time winner on the grass, 2 of them at Golden Gate. He does have that effort at Santa Anita back in October where he was able to win. I just wonder, kind of looking at that trip, it worked out beautifully for him because they did go quick. He's going to get some pace in here, but is he quite this level? I don't know.
I don't know either. I do think as far as long shots go, maybe, I don't know what kind of price he's going to be, but I feel like he'll be one of the bigger ones. I thought he was just a little interesting, actually, because you're right. When he was a huge price when he won that race at Santa Anita 3 back. And ultimately the trip worked out, but he didn't get a perfect trip in there. He had a little early trouble before he got an inside run to get the job done. I thought he ran well there. I thought he ran well again in his next start without a great trip. He was really running. I think this horse has just improved recently. And to me, that just makes him really interesting in this race.
The 6 Fast Buck we saw in the time form US pace projections, likely to be the pace setter in here. A horse that typically is on the lead, has set some really blistering fractions in those sprints, whether it's been 5/8 at Del Mar or 6.5 on the downhill. The thing that I look at him more and more that I just feel like I have these question marks around is the distance. Looking at him, they've only tried him long once. Sure, there's some upside going long for the second time, but he was a horse that was in graded stakes sprinting. They tried him in a grade 2 going long, and I know the horses that he faced were pretty good. He was 73-1 in there, Mike. I mean, he was a huge price, and he chased on kind of the pace early. I mean, he tracked through second, he dueled, and then he had nothing left, and those are fractions that he had never seen before. They were quite slow, and I understand he was going longer, but I don't love the effort.
I'm with you. I don't either. I mean, he's got a bunch of figures in a tight range, and they do kind of make him a contender. But I'm with you. Even if you didn't love him in a grade 2 last time, it's not like you ran some kind of good race in there. And I'm even more troubled by the California Flag 2-back because he is a good sprinter, and he is good down the hill. And on the whim, ran better than he did when he beat him in the California Flag 2 starts back. That race is the real turnoff for me.
And I think we've talked about already, None Above the Law. We're not a fan of him. He wasn't that far off a Fast Buck. So it's tough to kind of, I don't know, gauge him in the spot, especially with the added distance. The 7 Alligato, this is the stablemate to Old Pal. The other Mark Glatt training in the field too. Maybe last time out, not the best of efforts, but we go to look at a replay here of 2 back. Now I understand this is back in April at Santa Anita, but I thought this was a pretty game performance considering this horse had a lot to do. And the way that he's closing late here, pretty impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like this performance from him. Listen, his overall record, I guess, is the one thing that maybe would hold you back of getting too interested in this horse. 3 wins, 12 seconds and thirds. That's not ideal, but this horse is good. He was really good winning that race. I thought he was badly compromised by the pace in his most recent start, and I think he ran way better than it looks in there. And he's also a horse who's run in this race, each of the last 3 years, going this distance, he's run great in all of them. He won one of them. He was right there in a photo in the other 2. He just needs a trip.
The 8 keep moving on here. Now joins the barn of Tim Yachteen. Prior to that, we've seen this one at Pleasanton, Fresno, you name it, kind of on the fair circuit. Primarily, though, in those last couple, those races have been on the dirt. Prior to that, though, had some turf experience. I think just a little bit of a tough sell with the most recent turf performance. I know it was a win, but the Beyer is really light, and not saying that Beyers are everything, but a 65 kind of pales to this field. I mean, it's just not a good figure.
Yeah, he clearly handles turf. He handles all 3 surfaces. It's a real question whether he's good enough to beat these horses.
The 9 takes 3. We'll actually take a look at one of his efforts. Now, he's won his last couple, but more recently was on the dirt. So we go 2 back to the turf win where I thought this was a great performance in terms of the trip that he got. He was able to sit sort of mid-pack, maybe a little further off of it, and makes a late run. And he had some trouble in here, but still is able to get up by a nose. And last time out, you could see he was a little versatile on the dirt. He showed early foot. I think he's maybe one of the younger horses in the field that has some upside, but is going to get tested for class.
Yeah, really like that win that we just showed right there. That's a race he easily could have lost if he hadn't gotten clear in time, but he got clear and he was really good in there. I also thought he ran really well 3 starts back. That's the race we talked about before. We can ultimately got the trip, got through on the inside. This horse wound up very wide on the turn and just missed that day too. I think he's in the best form of his life right now, and I want to use this horse.
The 10 Coalinga Road, he's tried everything. An 8-year-old son of Quality Road who is 0 for 7 in 2024, now making his 2025 debut. I didn't mind his performance last time out, Mike, but it was on the dirt. I think when you start to look at his turf form, there's some at least serious questions in terms of the top spot of getting the win honors.
I just wonder if he's as good as he used to be. So that's the real question for me too. He did win this race 2 years ago, but he got a perfect trip that day, and he just held on over Alligato. I mean, listen, I wouldn't be shocked if he ran well in here, but I'm not betting him.
And then to round out the field, the 11, Barely Functional, a dirt winner last time out at Los Al, and a horse that I think is pretty consistent in terms of the figures that he fires off. But for me, I think he's maybe a better dirt horse, knowing that his last 2 wins have been on the surface, and the fact that he's faced a lot of these faces before, and he's typically not on the winning side or even in front of most of them.
That's what I didn't like that about him either. He's just had so many chances against a bunch of these horses. He just can't get it done. I mean, listen, he's never embarrassed by them. He runs well pretty much every single time. I feel like even with the outside post, he can probably get a good trip in here because he's tactical. I don't really like him, but I recognize that there are ways to make a decent case for this horse to at least get a piece of this thing.
That's the field of 11 for the Unusual Heat Turf Classic. Before we get to top pick time, just don't forget this is the Saturday DRF race of the day, which means you can get free past performances on our website. So as we transition, Mike, here to top pick time, pretty wide open event. I think it's a great betting race, assuming that we have some nice prices on these horses. But you'll go to 1 of 2 in the field here for Mark Glatt, the 7 Alligato.
Yeah, hoping that Pratt getting back aboard doesn't hurt his price too much. I certainly think it could, but I like this horse. I think this is a great spot for him. He's run well fresh in the past, so I'm not going to worry too much about the layoff here. Actually, I just like this horse, and I like this spot. I'm going to take him, and if he winds up going too short because, Pratt's aboard and all that other stuff, I'm going to take a little shot with the 9. Takes 3. I really like his recent form.
He's a horse that I use underneath a little further down, but sort of a similar thought process. I think when you look at what Mark Glatt has in the field, Old Pal, maybe a horse to use underneath. You do the same. You talked about takes 3 towards the outside, and then even the 7 Alligato. Love him here. Just going to use him a little further down because I do like the inside horse, the number 1 on the whim. I don't love his performance last time out. I'm just hoping something went amiss there and he can rebound. I loved his efforts prior to that. I mean, he had 3 really solid races, whether it was at Del Mar or in that race 2 back at Santa Anita. We'll see what price, though, he is come this Saturday. So 7,938 for Mike. It's 1,379 for me. It's the Saturday DRF race of the day, the Unusual Heat Turf Classic. Good luck.